Hi everyone.
Hello.
Two people. It's more than our usual audiences. I'm Andy.
Hello, I'm Amy.
And we are Tales from the Hart.
Yes.
Yes, actually together.
Hooray!
For the first time in sort of about 2 metres. Yes, I've joined a bubble. I've come back to Hartford for a few days as I was living alone, so I'm allowed. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to do a story together because it's been a long time.
Yes.
So yes, we thought we'd tell a Norse story. We haven't done any Norse stories yet.
No.
So this is one of our favourite ones to tell together. And this is the tale of Thor, a very famous giant of a god losing his hammer. This is the tale of Thor and Thrym. Hope you're all sitting comfortably. Once upon a time, it was a beautiful morning across the 9 realms. Much more beautiful than this one we're out in today. And cast your mind across the 9 realms. Feel free to close your eyes and listen to us, I wouldn't blame you. And think on the great mountains of Jotunheim, the land of the giants. Think on the mines of Svartalheim, the great beautiful sunlit woodlands of Alfheim, the great plains and forests of Midgard, and of course the beauty of Asgard itself. And in Asgard, the home of the Aesir and the Vanir, the gods of the Norse, it was a beautiful quiet morning. The birds were singing, and if you listened very closely, you could just about hear the cry of, "Hammer! Where's my hammer?" Oh dear. It seemed that a god had lost his hammer. And of course, you've probably guessed this god is Thor. His hammer Mjolnir, the most famous weapon of the Norse gods, had gone missing. He had woken up as he usually did, had a great big stretch and a yawn as he usually did, and reached beneath his bed, but there was no hammer there. And of course, if Thor's hammer went missing in Asgard, well, there was only really one culprit that Thor could think of. And so he stormed out of his hall towards the home of Loki. Loki, the trickster god, the god of fire. It must have been him. And so he banged upon the door, and not waiting for an answer, he smashed it down, strode inside, grabbed Loki by the throat and picked him up. "Where's my hammer?" And Loki said, "What? Where's my hammer?"
Thor, put me down. I don't know where it is. I'll help you find it if you put me down.
And so Thor dropped Loki to the ground. And he explained that his hammer had gone missing. And Loki explained in return that not only could he barely lift the thing, but if he had stolen it, surely he would have been crowing about it by now, boasting about it, because that was his style. No, Thor agreed. This must have been someone else.
Now, let me go and find where your hammer is. I suspect it is with the giants. And so Loki turned himself into a hawk, and he soared across the sky into the lands of Jotunheim. And this is the land that was ruled by a king whose name was Thrym. He was a great big giant, the biggest one of all of them. And he could see that Thrym was striding across the ground, surveying his land, and so Loki turned back into his true form. "Greetings, King Thrym. How goes it?"
"It goes well enough, Loki of Asgard. How goes it with you and the gods?"
"Not well, as I think you know. For you see, Thor has lost Mjolnir, and I suspect you know where it is."
At that, Thrym gave a great laugh, and he kept laughing, near doubling over, near crying in his laughter, and finally wiping the tears of mirth from his eyes. He shouted back, "Oh, Loki! I don't guess, I don't think, I know where it is. It lies 9 miles beneath our feet currently, where neither you nor Thor or any other god will find it. And you will not have it back until my demands are met."
Oh, Loki did not like where this was going, but he said, very well. What are your demands? And so Thrym explained that he wanted a wife. And Freya, being the fairest of all the goddesses in Asgard, that is who he wanted for his wife. And he said that if the Loki could promise Freya's hand in marriage, then he would gladly give Mjolnir back. Loki thought to himself, this is not likely. But out loud he said, very well, King Thrym. I will take your request back to Asgard, and hopefully I'll soon have an answer for you. And he turned himself into a hawk once more, and he flew back to the lands of Asgard, where he met Thor.
Now Thor had been pacing up and down in his hall so much and in so much worry he had nearly worn a trough in the stone floor. But soon Loki flew back through that window, fluttering about and turning back into his true form. "Ah, Loki!" Thor greeted him. Do you know where my hammer is?"
Yes, I do know where Mjolnir is, Thor. Now, I have 2 pieces of news for you. I don't quite know yet which one is good or bad, but I have news for you nonetheless.
"Enough of your riddles, Loki. Tell me where my hammer is." And so Loki explained all about his trip to Jotunheim, his meeting with Thrym, and he explained how, well, he knew where the hammer was, and also the request that had come through from Thrym himself regarding its return. Now, at this point, he winced, expecting Thor to explode, but instead was greeted by a laugh. "Well, that's wonderful. Well, let's go to Freya now and arrange this with her sooner to get my hammer back."
In disbelief, Loki said, Thor, do you really think Freya is going to consent to marry a giant she has never met, and that Ode, the husband she already has, is going to willingly cast off his wife for this to happen?
Thor scratched his beard and shrugged and laughed at that. "I didn't think about it that way, Loki, but it can't hurt to ask, can it?"
No, I suppose it can't, Loki thought. He did always like to see a quarrel between the gods, and so he agreed. And they went to go and see Freya. "What?" Freya screamed aloud as the 2 gods explained the proposition to her. "I don't know. What is the most offensive out of this? That a giant would deem himself worthy of my hand? That you would even consider this proposition? That you would even ask me this? And that you would even pollute my ears with it?" "So it's a no, then," Loki said cheekily, deftly ducking as a shield flew its way across the room like a frisbee towards them, nearly hitting them as the 2 gods scuttled off. "Well," Loki said, I think this is going to require more input from the other gods than just us, Thor. We need to have a meeting."
And so, when the other gods learnt of what had happened, there was a meeting. Odin called a great council. For you see, with Mjolnir gone was their greatest defence against the giants that would attack them. And so they talked for a long time. They spoke to one another. But the best suggestion was put forward by Heimdall, the watchman of the gods that stood guard over the rainbow bridge of Bifrost, looking over the other realms. And he spoke up. "It seems to me, Thor, that you know this hammer better than anyone. You can use it better than anyone. It should be you that goes to retrieve it." "Well, that is all well and good, Heimdall," said Thor, getting impatient, "but if I go there without my hammer, I'll be one against many without my greatest weapon." "That," said Heimdall, "is if you go as a warrior. I think you should go in disguise." Now Thor did not like that one bit. "In disguise, that is not like me. That will bring dishonour upon me. And plus, they will laugh at me for using such a cowardly way of getting my hammer back." "Not," said Heimdall, "if you break all of their skulls. Once you have your hammer back, no one will be left to speak of it."
"If it's trickery you need," Loki said, "I can help with that." And so it was that the two gods left Asgard, but not as themselves. For being a shapeshifter, this was his skill, Loki transformed himself into a handmaiden. And next to him was the god Thor, but not as himself. The great hulking form of Thor, with his great bushy beard, was squeezed tightly into a dress. "Now, listen here," Loki said, hurrying as they hurried along to Jotunheim. "You must not enrage the giants, Thor. You must not give them any reason to suspect you. You must not do anything that might make them angry. You must not..." "You know what?" Loki said. "I think it's best maybe if I do all the talking and I give you this." And Loki put a veil over Thor's head to cover up the great big red bushy beard so that only his big red eyes remained visible.
And so the two gods approached Jotunheim, and soon they were standing at the borders of Thrym's land. As they approached the great hall, Thor picked his veil up and put it over his eyes so none of his face was showing, and was allowed himself to be led by Loki towards the hall. As they approached, 12 great armoured giants strode from the hall. At the head of them was Thrym himself. "My love," he said, "this is wonderful news, a wonderful sight to behold. You have come. Oh, this is wonderful. I've waited for a long time. A feast has been prepared in your honour." And he looked at them, the handmaid and Freya. "Why do you not speak to me, Freya? Why will you not greet me after such a long journey, your future husband?" Now, Thor's heart was pounding. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to do. He hadn't thought about that. He couldn't use his voice. It was most definitely not Freya's voice. And when he couldn't think of what to do, when he was starting to sweat, Loki saved him.
"Thrym, it is because... it is because Freya loves you so much. This is why she is silent, for you see, she was so desperate to see you that in the days before we came, she shouted, she screamed, and she wept so much that her throat became dry and hoarse until she could speak no more. And this is why she cannot speak to you now, because she loves you so much."
Silence fell upon the group. Thor simply nodded. Thrym, well, do you think Thrym bought such an obvious lie? Of course he did, for he was an arrogant, thick-skulled giant. "Oh, that is wonderful news, my love," he said. "Wonderful news. Well, worry no longer. Come with me. Let us go to the feast." And so he grabbed Thor's hand and started to drag him towards the feast. Only then did he look up to see not a dainty hand of a goddess of love, but a great, thick, meaty hand, thick with scars and calluses. "Ha!" he said. "Why is your hand scarred and calloused so?" Now Thor didn't know what to say. He couldn't say anything, and as he stared at his hand and stared at the giant, he didn't know what to say, but Loki came to the rescue with...
"It is because Freya loves you so much." Yes. Her hands look this way because she was so desperate to see you, Thrym, that we had to shut her away in her rooms before the time, and she hammered and thundered upon the doors so much because she couldn't wait to see you, to be with you, to be married to you on this day. And so this is why her hands look like this. It is because she loves you so much.
Well, silence fell upon the group. Thor nodded, still holding this giant's hand. The giant looked down at the hand and looked at Thor, and did you think he bought it? Well, of course he did, because he is an arrogant, thick-skulled giant. "Oh, wonderful, my love. Well, fear no longer. You are with me now. Let us go and feast." They went into the hall. Now, this hall was huge, and it was laden with food upon the tables everywhere. Warriors, giant warriors, stood and greeted them with shouts and stamps and bangs of their weapons on the ground. Well, that was a lucky thing, for Thor, upon seeing all this food, stomach rumbled very loudly. Sitting down to eat, Loki, being a seasoned trickster and master of disguise, knew that he had to play the part, and so he took a dainty nibble here and a sip of wine there. However, Thor knew no such things. He only knew his own hunger, and he had eaten, before the first course was finished, 2 oxen, 8 wild boar, 16 great loaves of bread, and 2 barrels of ale. All the while, Thrym looked upon his new bride, horrified. He was worried that if she had an appetite like this, she would be eaten out of house and home. My love, why are you so hungry and thirsty? What's going on? Thor, with a mouthful of oxen, looked over and shrugged, didn't know what to say, but luckily he was saved by Loki.
It is because... it is because Freya loves you so much, Thrym. Oh, what can I say now? For you see, she was so desperate to be with you that she refused all food. She refused all drink for days before coming here. So this is why she eats and drinks so much now, because she loves you so much, Thrym.
Well, Thor simply nodding with his mouth full of oxen. Do you think Thrym bought this lie? Of course he did. He was an arrogant, thick-skulled giant. Oh, my love, well, eat and drink your fill. Do not worry, you are here now. And so they carried on eating. Thor, appetite sated, was starting to get impatient for the return of his hammer. And so he began to nudge Loki under the table, who finally got the message. Thrym, he asked, where is the hammer? When will you bring it out? He asked him. Well, Thrym slapped his thigh and said, oh, don't worry, yes, oh, bring in the hammer, bring in the wedding gift. And soon, from the back of the hall, 12 giants strode forward, carrying a shield between them that was buckling beneath the weight of Mjolnir. And with a great heave and grunt, they set it down upon the table. Now, it was just out of the reach of Thor, just. But, Thrym said, before I give you this bridal gift, I would ask a kiss from my love. Now, Thor used the first bit of initiative he had found himself with that evening. Knowing that he couldn't lift his veil up, he pointed to his cheek and pulled it down as he leaned forward, ever so closer to Thrym and ever so closer to that hammer. And as he pulled the veil down and Thrym leaned in, he saw the head, the scarred forehead, the great bushy eyebrows, and then the mad, red-staring eyes, the bloodshot eyes of the Thunder God. Why, love, why are your eyes so bloodshot and red and mad and staring and angry? Thor didn't know what to say. The worry and the confusion was showing in his eyes, but, of course, Loki came to the rescue.
It is because, Thrym, it is because Freya loves you so very much. For you see, she was so desperate to be here with you today, so desperate for her wedding day to come, that she stayed awake for many nights. She did not sleep, and when she was awake, she wept and she wept until she could cry no more. And this is why her eyes look so red and angry and mad the way they do now. This is a bit of a reach, but this is because she loves you so much.
Well, do you think Thrym bought that? I think you know the answer by now. Of course he did, for he is an arrogant, thick-skulled giant. Oh, my love, my love, my love! He was overcome with emotion, and so he pulled down the veil and leant in, eyes closed, for a kiss, as Thor leant in to kiss him. Their lips met, the bushy beard tickled the giant king's mouth. He opened his eyes, staring straight into the face of not Freya, but the Thunder God himself. But by then, Thor had gripped the hilt of Mjolnir, and with a smile, he gave Thrym a kiss he would not forget in the rest of his short, short life, knocking his head clean off with Mjolnir. and with mighty swings he brought the whole giant king's hall down around them, and all the giants with it, soon making his way back to Asgard, not caring he was still in a dress. And that, my friends, is the story of how Thrym took Thor's hammer and Thor regained it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the bit where we'd usually fade out and then fade back in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well. We hope you've enjoyed that. As I've just got back here, we really didn't have much of a chance to practice that, so I hope you enjoyed it. Making excuses.
I'll tell you what though, it's really nice doing a live broadcast like this, because we haven't told a story live in any way like we normally do for a long time. So as weird as this is, it's been quite nice.
It is. No, it's nice. It's kind of like telling a story in town, because you can see up the top on the Facebook feed, don't know about the Twitter one, but people leaving and then coming back, or new people coming in. It's like people wandering around and having a look.
Exactly.
And whoever left now should feel guilty. But yes, thank you very much for joining us, guys. Yes, basically. Thank you so much for joining us. This is my my parents' garden. So yes, they've kindly allowed us to use this. Now I'm going to be here. I won't be here, unfortunately, for next Folklore Thursday. However, I'm going back then. But however, we're hoping to get a few bits done while I am here. Mm-hmm. So watch your space. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to have something a bit special for you next week for Folklore Thursday. It'll be a recording, but something a little bit special. So yes, tune in next week. That won't be a live broadcast, so don't worry. Thank you again for joining us. We're going to get out of this rain. It does sound like Thor has heard our story and is giving a few rumbles in the distance. So again, share the video, give it a like, and yes, if you are feeling generous, please donate to, well, I'll let you do this bit, I'm sick of my voice now, you do this bit.
If you feel that you're able to, and you enjoyed the content, and you enjoy the other videos that we've got on offer in our lockdown storytelling playlist, it would be great if you could leave a contribution behind for the Trussell Trust Food Bank charity. They operate all across the UK, including in Hertford, where we're filming now. And it's a great resource that gives families that are really struggling to put food on the table, it's a bit extra, so they're able to do that. And particularly with the impact of coronavirus, the impacts it's having on jobs and various things like that, it's needed now more than ever. So yeah, your support will be greatly appreciated. We can leave a link on Facebook for you and on Twitter for that, so you can do that. Don't donate as much or as little as you like. If you can't donate, because times are hard right now, it's totally understandable. Just feel free to share the video on, so that in hopes that maybe someone who can do that. Yeah.
Okay, again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of this very rainy day.
See you later, guys.
Bye.